is get started with Lakehouse in Microsoft Fabric. So first, let's try to understand what is a lake house. Okay, so the foundation of Microsoft Fabric is a lake house, and this lake house is built on the top of the one lake, which is a scalable storage layer, and it uses Apache Spark and SQL compute engines for big data processing. Okay. So when we talk about Lakehouse, it is a unified platform that combines the flexible and scalable storage of a data lake and the ability to query and analyze data of a data warehouse. Now, this Lakehouse, it presents as a database and it is built on the top of a data lake using data format tables. And Lakehouse combine the SQL based analytical capabilities of a relational data warehouse and also the flexibility and scalability of a data lake. So Lakehouse, it store all data formats and it can be used with various analytics tools and programming languages. So, as a cloud based solution, this lakehouse can scale automatically and provide high availability and disaster recovery. Now, why do we use a lakehouse? What are the benefits of a lakehouse? So, it basically utilizes Spark as well as SQL engines for large scale data processing and analytics that also include machine learning and predictive modeling. Okay, it also adopts a schema on red format, and this format allow flexible schema definition as needed rather than relying on a predefined schema. Along with these benefits, it also support ACID transactions through data lake formatted tables, which ensures consistency and integrity. It also provide a centralized location for data engineers, data scientists, and data analysts to access and utilize the data. All right. So this was about a lake house, a brief introduction of a lake house. Now let's move ahead and see how can we work with a fabric lake house. All right. So in Microsoft Fabric, you can create a lake house in the data engineering experience in any premium tier workspace. And after creating a lakehouse, you can load the data in any common format from various sources that include local files, databases, or APIs. This example, a brief introduction of this example, we have already seen in our yesterday lab. All right. So here, the creation of a single lake house, it produces three named items in Fabric enabled workspace. First one is lake house. So this lake house is lake house storage and metadata where you interact with the files, folders, and table data. Then a data set, which is a default one, and it is an automatically created data model based on the tables in the lake house. Okay, and Power BI reports can be built from these data sets. And after that, we have a SQL endpoint, which is a read only SQL endpoint through which you can connect and query data with Transact SQL. Okay, so these are different named items inside your Fabric enabled workspace, which we can utilize. Now, after loading the data into the lakehouse, you can use various tools and techniques to explore and transform it, which include Apache Spark, SQL endpoint, data flows, and data pipelines. So, if we talk about Apache Spark, so each Fabric Lakehouse can use Spark pools through notebooks or Spark job definitions to process data in files and tables in the Lakehouse. And it can use Scala, Spark, PySpark, or Spark SQL. And inside our Apache Spark, we have notebooks. So basically, notebooks are interactive coding interfaces in which we can use code to read, transform, and write data directly to the lakehouse as tables or files. Then we have Spark job definitions. So, on demand or scheduled script that use the Spark engine to process the data in the lakehouse. All right. And then we have one more tool here or technique, which is SQL endpoint. So each lakehouse, it include a SQL endpoint through which we can run transact SQL statement to query, filter, aggregate, and otherwise explore data in Lakehouse tables. Then we have data flows Gen 2, and a small example we have seen of it yesterday as well. So, in addition to using a data flow to ingest data into the lakehouse, you can create a data flow to perform subsequent transformations through Power Query and optionally land transformed data back to the lakehouse. Along with this, we have data pipeline as well. So, um, when we have orchestrated complex data transformation logic, which operates on data in the lakehouse through a sequence of activities such as data flows, Spark job, and other control flow logic. So, in that case, data pipeline can come into the picture. And not only this, but also we can visualize the lake house data using Power BI. So this was the introduction about our lake house. Now we will move ahead with a small demonstration of it as well. Okay, so let me just switch my screen to the lab. So this is our Microsoft Fabric homepage. Now in this lab, we will create a lake house. We will load the data into the lake house, and then we will use the SQL queries uh, for analyzing the data. Okay. So for that, let's go to our Synapse data engineering section. And firstly, we will create a workspace. So I will create a new workspace here. My workspace. Okay, and now I will create a lake house, my workspace. Okay, so Lakehouse has been created, and we can see that tables and files have are empty. So now in the lake, from the Lake Explorer, I'll just firstly I will download a sales.csv file. Let me just save it. Okay, so I hope file is saved. Now I will come to the files, and here I will create a new subfolder, and let me just create it and name it as data. Okay, so we can see that a data subfolder has been created. Now I will upload the sales.csv file that we have downloaded. All right, so the file has been uploaded. Let me refresh. And when we click on data, we can see sales.csv file has been uploaded in the data folder. Okay, now what we will do, we will explore the shortcuts. So in many scenarios where data we need to work is within our lakehouse and it may be stored in some other location. So there, this is one of the option to create a shortcut. And shortcut basically enables us to include externally sourced data in our analytic solution without the overhead or any risk of data inconsistency, which is associated with copying it. So in the menu of files folder, we have an option of new shortcut. So this is the interface of new shortcut. So you can use the shortcuts to quickly pull data from internal and external location into your lakehouse, warehouse, or data sets. And shortcut can be updated or removed from your item. Okay, but these changes will not affect the original data and its source. So this is just for the exploration. We are not going to create it. So let's come back to our lakehouse. Okay, now we will load the data into a table. So the data that we have loaded in the data folder, which is sales.csv, now we will load it into the table. So from the menu of sales.csv table, we'll load it into a new table. Okay, so we will name it as sales. All right, and that's it. Includes and a load. All right, so it's loading. Okay, so we can see sales table here. We can load its preview. So here we can see our table, what all columns are there. All right, and we can see that these are the columns of our sales table. All right, so this is how. And now if I click, all right, so now we will use a SQL to query tables. So when we create a lakehouse and when we define tables in it, so a SQL endpoint is automatically created, and through that we can query our table using the select statement. So at the right of the lakehouse, we will switch from lakehouse to SQL endpoint. So it will open an interface. All right, and now On this interface, we will select New SQL Query. And now we'll just select some columns from our sales table. So we can see it has fetched the data. All right, and it is basically showing the total revenue for each project. We can also create the visual query. Okay, so because many data professionals, they are familiar with SQL. Okay, and but they can also create new visual queries. So for that, we can click on new visual query, and here we can drag the sales table. So we can visualize the table. You can visualize the sales table. Now from here, you can either download it as Excel file, or you can visualize the result. Okay, or you can just manage the columns, what all columns you want to see. Suppose in the manage column, I want to choose the column, and instead of selecting all the columns, I just want to view few columns like sales order number, sales order line number, and order date. So I can only view the columns that I want to view. All right. And you can visualize the result as well. So here you can add the data fields and everything. And like here, if I want to see sales order date and order amount or sales order. So I can just I can visualize my result in any form. Okay, and then I can save it as report as well. All right, so these are some of the features. We can also then create a report, and we can do various things in our Lakehouse. So this was it with this lab. Okay, now let's switch back to our slides. So here the current topic, which was about introduction about Lakehouse, has been finished, and now we'll move ahead with our next topic.